Luca read the message aloud, his voice rolling through the diner like thunder, wrapped in quiet rage. "He is hurting my mother. Please help us before it is too late." The entire room froze. And Luca, the silent man with a past carved into his bones, rose with a stare so sharp it made the air tremble. "I am on my way." The diner had always been Luca's retreat, a place where he could hear the hum of life without being part of it. A warm lamp glowed above him, casting soft light over the cracked leather seat. The coffee in his cup had gone cold, but he still held it between his hands, as if it grounded him. He breathed slowly, almost meditatively, until the night cracked, open with the vibration of his phone. A message appeared, short but heavy. A message that did not belong to him, but somehow found him. A child's plea, a trembling confession. Fear overflowing through letters that looked like they were typed. With shaking fingers, the kind of message that split a man open. As the words left Luca's lips, the diner turned into stone. A fork dropped. Someone whispered a prayer. The waitress clutched the counter as if steadying herself against the sudden weight in the air. No, one knew Luca well. People didn't ask questions about men who carried storms inside their silence. They only watched him, sensing something powerful, something quiet but not fragile. And tonight they watched him transform. He placed a few bills on the table, stood, and walked out with the steadiness of a man stepping into a memory he never wanted to revisit. Outside, the wind bit into his skin, carrying the scent of old pavement and winter leaves. Luca inhaled deeply. The night had teeth, and he welcomed the bite because it reminded him that he was alive, that he still had a purpose, even if that purpose had been buried for far too long. He typed a reply to the child, telling her he was coming. He didn't know who she was. He didn't know her mother. But he knew fear. He knew the feeling of waiting for help that never came. He knew the taste of helplessness. And he would not allow a child to feel that same bitterness. Luca moved toward his car, each step stirring memories he thought he had locked away forever. Memories of dusty battlefields, worn boots, and promises carved into shaking voices years ago. Long before he tried to disappear into quiet corners of the world, Luca had lived a life built on unbreakable loyalty. He had been a soldier first, trained to move with precision and protect those who could not protect themselves. Later he had been a man caught in networks of influence and power, the kind people whispered about in dark halls. He never liked. The labels others gave him did not call himself a leader or a boss. He simply stood by those who trusted him, and he did so with a heart that would burn before it bent. But that life took its toll. The faces of his fallen brothers in service haunted him. He remembered one night in particular, a night soaked with dust and sorrow. His closest friend, a man with hope in his smile, had fallen beside him. As Luca held him in his arms, the man had pressed a weak hand to Luca's chest, leaving behind his final plea, "Look after the ones who need help, promise. Me, you will never walk away from a cry for protection." That plea carved Luca from the inside out, and no matter how far he tried to run from his past, it followed him. Whispering in moments like this, when a child's voice trembled across a screen, that memory guided Luca now. The road leading to the address the girl had sent was quiet and dim, lit only by weak street lights that flickered like they were afraid to stay awake. Luca drove fast but steady, eyes focused, breath deep. He felt the tension rising thicker the closer he came. Pain lived in that house. He could feel it in the air before he even parked. The house itself stood hunched beneath the night sky, the porch light blinking like a dying star. Shadows moved behind the curtains. Luca stepped out of the car and shut the door with the calm of someone who did not need to prove he was dangerous. He did not carry visible weapons. He carried something far stronger. Conviction. He approached the door and heard muffled sounds inside. The kind of sounds that made the stomach twist and the hands clench. A soft cry slipped through the cracks. A child trying to comfort a mother trying to shield a child from pain. Luca knocked once. The knock wasn't loud. It didn't need to be. It carried his presence, and that presence filled the doorway before the door even opened. heavy. Footsteps approached. The door swung open. A man stood there, face marked with impatience and authority misplaced. His eyes flashed with irritation at being interrupted. He looked at Luca with the same careless disdain he likely used on everyone he believed he controlled. But when he tried to shut the door, Luca placed a hand on it. Not pushing, not forcing, just stopping it. Calmly, unshakably. The man's face shifted. Confusion first, then frustration, then something much quieter, something close to unease. Luca did not move. He did not blink. He simply stood as a wall. Between suffering and the ones who caused it, behind the man, the mother held her daughter tightly. The girl's face was pale, eyes glistening with fear and hope tangled together. The little girl looked at Luca as if he were the last lighthouse in a storm. Neighbors slowly emerged from their doors. One stepped onto the porch with hesitation, then another. People who had once chosen silence now stood, witnessing something they couldn't ignore. They saw the courage they had failed to show. They saw a man standing in a doorway with nothing but calm strength. In his posture, the man in the doorway attempted bravado again. But his voice cracked under the weight of Luca's silence. Luca didn't need to threaten him. His stillness held more power than any raised voice ever could. He gently extended an arm toward the mother and child. The mother hesitated for only a moment before stepping forward, clutching her daughter. Luca guided them down the steps. His touch was soft, but the protection he offered felt like steel. As the family reached the sidewalk, the tension in the street broke. Neighbors gathered around them, offering blankets, warm words, quiet support. The mother's shoulders shook. As she cried, overwhelmed with safety she had not felt in years, the little girl reached for Luca's hand. Holding it tightly, her grip was small, but the message was mighty. You came. You really came. Luca felt something in his chest loosen, a tightness he had carried for years easing at last. This was what his fallen friend had meant. This was the promise he had been failing to outrun. Stand for those who whisper when the world shouts over them. He looked back at the man on the porch. The man stood stiff, suddenly stripped of power. Luca said nothing. He didn't need to. Silence was judgment. His presence was truth. His calm was the end of the man's control. Two thoughts rose inside Luca with the weight of fate. Strength is not the hand that strikes, but the heart that shields. Honor is stepping forward when everyone else steps back. The mother's voice cracked softly in relief as she thanked him. The little girl offered him a small, trembling smile that shined brighter than any medal he had ever received. Luca nodded once, a gesture of acceptance and assurance, before turning back toward his car. As he walked, neighbors parted like a path. Carved out of respect, some placed hands over their hearts. Some bowed their heads. Some whispered prayers of gratitude. He did not bask in it. He simply kept walking, carrying the quiet truth that tonight at least, he had stayed true to the promise that shaped his soul. He reached his car, paused, and let the dawn's first light brush against his face. Another thought settled deep. In him, a thought that felt like healing. A single act of courage can rewrite the story of a life caught in fear. He drove away slowly, knowing he had done what was right, even if no one ever knew his name. In a world full of noise, true courage often speaks in silence. Some heroes do not wear uniforms or medals. Some heroes simply step forward when a whisper of fear reaches them. Luca showed that one brave heart can change everything. Share where you are watching from. Tell us what silent strength means to you. And subscribe for more stories that honor the quiet protectors among us.